Hello and welcome. In recent years, there's been tremendous focus on just what Indian students are losing out, given what is described as the lack of real paucity of research options in the country. There's been much debate on research, which is sadly lacking, and all that we need to do to get Indian students at par with the best in the world. And that's what we're going to look at in depth today as we try and understand how quality research results in world-class students and what really we can do to get India in the top few countries in the world. Remember, on the Global Innovation Index 2015, which covers 141 economies, India's ranking this year is 81 as against 76 just last year. Many, of course, are arguing this is not a true reflection of the status of India. Other students are now saying that they are keen on going out to study abroad simply given the tremendous research options in the country. Well, that's of course, like I said, our special focus today. Joining me on the panel, Sanjeev Bikhchandani is the co-founder of Naukri and Ashoka University, Professor Peter Horton, Vice-Chancellor at Deakin University in Australia, Dr. Ramkumar, General Manager, R&D, Indian Oil, and last but not the least, Ravneet Pava, Director, South Asia at Deakin University. Thanks all so much for taking our time to be with us today. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, as someone who sort of, has been tracking and involved in the startup space much before startups became uber cool as they are today, you were among the first movers in this space. Innovation, I would imagine, therefore key to a lot of what you've accomplished. How do you see the space as far as that is concerned in India?
No, I think the startup scene, youngsters coming out of college trying to do something, even before they go to college trying to do something, or while in college doing something, I think that has increased manifold. Now, some of it is innovative, some of it is not really innovative. But if 1,000 try, maybe 200 will be innovative, maybe 25 will succeed. But I think they'll blaze new trails. They will take industries and in new directions. However, having said that, there is actually very little that is coming out of research done in universities.
Right.
And that linkage, I believe, has not been adequately established. Unlike in the US, you found that Google was created out of a PhD project. Yahoo was created out of a PhD project. Sun Microsystems came out of Stanford.
Right.
So, or the Cambridge cluster in the UK. That kind of ecosystem has not yet evolved in India. There are now clusters of innovators coming out of IIT Delhi or IIT Bombay, but that's still not institution linked.
Professor Horton, here in India, like we said at the start of this program, there is a lot of sort of chest beating and hand wringing. You will have lots of people saying, where is the research? This is where we are lacking. We need our young to go out there. Academia, another ball game. You ask a group of youngsters how many want to get into academia. Very few will actually raise their hands and say, yes, I want to do it. There are, of course, a whole host of reasons, many of them historical. How do you see the Australia example as sort of the lessons that you've learned along the way, which we could perhaps apply here?
Well, I think, in fact, in Australia, we're actually also struggling in some ways with these aspects of Australian students going to do research. And we rely enormously on overseas students coming to do research in our universities for the same reasons. I think that in many ways what you have to do is have industry showing that there is a career pathway. I think that your brightest students go to the IITs, they study very hard, and they go into some sort of management or computer job. They're not exposed to research along the way. They're not exposed to companies saying, if you were to solve this problem, it would really help our company and we'll give you a sort of position within the company. So it's a sort of a two-way street. And we're trying to do that in Australia quite a lot. We're having a lot more students based in industry. And so they might spend 6 months of their PhD in industry and get a taste for it. And also the companies, they get a taste that these PhDs aren't just boffins. I think there's this image that PhD students are boffin, whereas in really they're just someone who's got a high level of problem solving and can really contribute to a company.
And that's the point that Mr. Bikhchandani also made, that there's a link with industry, of course, being very key. There are, of course, a few sectors where we've seen that, Dr. Ramkumar, but it's not really as widespread or sort of, we don't hear of it enough.
Especially in India, now this need of linkage between academia and industry is actually dawning on the industry. Because India and China are the fastest growing economies. In spite of that, the markets coming from industry, we perceive the markets exist in India and China are the most cost conscious. So for these cost conscious markets to win the game, it is the differentiation
Right.
of the product
Right.
or the process.
Right.
And industrial R&D and industry are very time bound.
Right. Right.
So I think instead of taking a fresh research scholar from a research student from a university, if there is a industry academia link up is there,
Right.
if a person is coming from that link up
Right.
to the industry,
Right.
he would be having the knack of applying his domain knowledge to a given problem,
Right.
and the results would be flowing.
The results will be flowing, and that's what, of course, we are hoping for. Before I get Ravneet in, Mr. Bikhchandani, you know, we spoke about startups briefly, and that, you know, this is the kind of vacuum that, say, our young entrepreneurs are trying to fill. Like you said, even before they step out of their college campuses, we know this startup started on campus, that's sort of making headlines. Now you're also a co-founder of Ashoka University, described as one of, you know, just this filling again a vacuum that we needed, focus on liberal arts. Do you see the sort of more new age educational institutions trying to step up to the plate and sort of filling this
No,
gap?
at Ashoka, we were very conscious from the beginning that it's not just a teaching university, it's a research-based teaching university.
Right, right.
And you know, if you start off just doing teaching, it's very hard then to also add research. You got to do
Right.
both simultaneously.
Right.
Of course, it's easier. I won't say easier. I would say it's less expensive in social sciences and liberal arts. You don't need expensive laboratories and all of
Right.
that. So the resources deployed aren't that much.
Sure.
But as we move into science areas, and which is Ashoka's next step, we are moving into natural sciences. We will have to make those investments.
Right.
I think you know, one is of course conscious strategy. Two is the kind of people you get in, and therefore the culture you build. And three is, you know, the resources you are able to deploy. Research payoffs are long term, and very often it's you do research and you don't know when it will pay off, and once it does pay off, you are not able to even, you know, say that investment made 30 years ago has paid off today.
Right.
And therefore, a lot of research investment is made out of faith.
Right, the engineering example, of course, is a good one. We produce more engineers than most countries in the world. Now, of course, one can say that they are looking at startups and they're looking at entrepreneurship and all of that. But so far, there was this big question on where are they going and where are all our engineers going. But Ravneet, come in, you know, at this point, as someone who interacts with students so closely, you're perhaps aware of just, you know, for instance, when we chose the last Deakin Scholarship winner, it was quite a pleasant surprise to see people talk a lot about research. I want to study further. I'm not just out there to get the next high-paying job, but I want to focus on research, and therefore I'm looking overseas.
Yeah, I think we've got lots of interest from students, you know, looking at areas in research that they want to look at. What strikes me very clearly is that it's not conducive here for them to really go on with their passion, because everything is about, you know, like Sanjeev said, it's all about teaching institutions.
Right.
Even our top institutions are focused on being teaching institutions. So the research culture is not there. You know, we run this program at Deakin, which is we have students that are based here in India, enrolled at Deakin in a research project, and they're doing a Deakin PhD, and it's co-supervised between Deakin and Indian supervisors. And you can instantly see the change in the students' culture and the contribution as they're exposed to real research.
That's, of course, an important point. And again, I come back to the point of so many students wanting to sort of go out there, go overseas. You know, they'll raise the money. 80% of, in fact, money for home loans is sort of generated or is sort of raised by, student loans, I beg your pardon, is sort of raised by putting, you know, your home as a collateral. That is how much we value our education. Your parents have worked all their lives to get that one home, but they will put that out as collateral. But, you know, explain to me how you see the space in India, because we are in a space where it's 100% or nothing when you pass out of school. Students are told, I mean, we've created only a handful institutions of excellence, unfortunately, but students are told if you're not maxing your subjects, including language subjects, you're not getting anywhere, and it's unfortunate, but it's true.
It's also a very interesting tension, because in my history of having many PhD students, the best marking students aren't the best researchers necessarily. Because you want people with creativity, people who take risks.
Right.
And your system is about not taking risks. It's actually about, you know, conforming.
Right.
Whereas a really top researcher will take risks. And I find, you know, I have many students from India doing PhDs with me, and you know, most of them are very excellent. Some of them struggle though with the open-endedness. You know, the fact there is no right answer. I've got to go and do it myself. I've got to be hands-on. I've got to get in the lab and do stuff and make mistakes.
Right.
And I think that, as you said, the 100% idea makes it very, very hard. And I think that the problem also is you sort of second-tier universities or third-tier universities, which are really just teaching. There's no, even as academics themselves haven't done much research along the way. And so they're not instilling the students with this idea of passion for problem solving, for doing startups, for doing different things.
Right. And that's an important point, that it's not just those who've got the highest scores who are going to be the most successful. No. And you are perhaps a case in point.
I was, for sure.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely. Okay.
He was a band player.
Oh, I see. So, but we don't seem to be able to take our focus away from this, because every year it's getting more and more difficult. In fact, there was this bizarre situation where one college even sort of chose its figures in a strange way, where their cutoff was 100.6 for some subjects. So it's just insane.
The problem is with the Indian school system. Actually, many problems. One of the problems is, or the board system, is that, look, the board exams and the correction has been dumbed down to a point where it's failing to discriminate at the top.
Right.
So you don't really know if the 98% student is better than 95% student or 93% student.
Sure.
Because at that level, careless mistakes, neatness, how you are on that day begins to count for a lot. And if you look only at the class 12 board exam result to give admissions, you are perhaps losing out some very good students and taking in some not so good students.
To a whole lot, right.
So I believe the class 12 board exam result is an imperfect measure and therefore should be only used as one indicator while assessing a student for admissions. Right? And that's what we do at Ashoka.
Right.
I think, sorry, can I just say here, Natasha, one of the things that I've found with students is, we've been taking interns from even the top institutions like IITs into Deakin, for various programs in Peter's lab and so forth. One of the things, coming back to innovation and coming back to risk-taking, is that they're very good, say, technically, right? They know the subject, so they can't go wrong with that. But when you put them in a situation which is multicultural, where they have to interact with people, they have to be creative, they have to really talk the language, the world language, they struggle. Even from our top institutions, and these are kids in the top 1% we are talking about. So, taking Sanjeev's point about when you come down to the second point, I mean, all these kids, where are they going to go?